Sometimes what you see is what you get, and that's definitely the case when it comes to Flat Heroes, a new minimalist platformer from first-time developer Parallel Circles. This is a simple yet fun throwback filled with hundreds of bite-sized stages where the only goal is to survive a punishing onslaught of enemies and obstacles. It's an exciting little platformer that'll always keep you on your toes, though chances are good you've seen a lot of these ideas many times before. Flat Heroes is part of a growing trend of 2D platformers that use a very stripped down and minimalist approach to the action. We don't get a story or a main villain or even a named hero, but rather simple shapes dodging other simple shapes. In this case, the shape is a box, which kind of flops back and forth in an effort to get away from dots, circles, arrows, and lines that are trying to slice our hero in half. The core campaign is split up into 10 different color palettes, each with 15 short stages and a boss battle. A lot of these stages will take well under a minute to complete, with most being able to be beaten in just a few seconds. But that's not to mean that the game is short, because a lot of the platforming puzzles are purposely tricky, forcing you to jump around and constantly dodge the increasingly difficult enemies until you get that coveted check mark. You're going to need to be alert and be fast at moving that box around if you hope to get through all of these stages. Now, if you've played one of this variety of punishing platformers, then you'll already know what to expect. Flat Heroes eases you into the action by introducing only one type of enemy at a time and then finding ways to add to the chaos. They typically do this by combining a bunch of types of enemies all at once. So you'll find yourself trying to avoid homing missiles, destructive bullets, and fast-moving lasers all at the same time. This turns out to be a real mess in the later stages, but the game does a good job of easing you into the trickier puzzles. When it comes to moves, this little box doesn't have very many. They can move left and right, as well as do a double jump in a number of different directions. There's also an offensive attack that you can use to destroy nearby enemies, though these blasts take a second or two to charge up, preventing the player from jumping around and killing everything in sight. I'm fine with the limited moves, but wish the gameplay was a little better. I don't like the way the box flops around, and I found it difficult to double jump in the right direction on a consistent basis. This becomes a real problem in the late game boss fights, where I found myself angry that the gameplay wasn't more precise. It's also worth noting that the challenging levels are mostly confined to the final few worlds. I found much of the campaign to be entirely too easy, to the point where I would only need to replay a puzzle once or maybe twice at most. It takes until around the 7th or 8th world until this game really comes to life, and that's where the real fun is hidden. The same can be said about the more challenging stages you unlock from beating the core campaign. This game takes too long building up to the good stuff. I think a lot of this problem is caused by the push to make Flat Heroes a multiplayer game. While you can go through the whole game as a solo player, I had the feeling that this was designed with the intention of 4 players sitting around the Switch and testing everybody's platforming skills. That's an interesting idea that you don't see a lot of in this type of game, though I wish they would have done more with that concept. The good news is that the other modes, like Survivor, will push you and your friends to the limit. Flat Heroes is a good platformer that never felt especially fresh or original. I like the focus on local multiplayer and the wide variety of enemies, but found myself fighting the gameplay and wanting the bite-sized stages to be a little deeper. While the action eventually picks up towards the end, it came after far too many stages of almost identical obstacles. And if you're looking for a 4-player platformer with simple graphics, then maybe you'll like Flat Heroes more than I did. Hey, thanks for watching our review. So here's the question I have for you. Are you a fan of the minimalist platformer trend? I know a lot of people have strong opinions about this type of thing, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, I'm currently hard at work on a bunch of reviews. You have no idea how behind I am right now. But look for my take on Dead Cells, Tiny Hand Adventures, Pool Panic, Overcooked 2, We Happy Few, and so much more. I'm telling you, I have a lot of reviews to get to, as well as a really cool announcement. Anyway, I recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.